This is a gentleman from Florida, Greg Stubbe.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mrs. Hilton, thank you for sharing your experience with us today. Your testimony is extremely powerful and moving. What happened to you and countless other children is unacceptable and is a moral failing in our country, and we must do better. The Ways and Means Committee has jurisdiction over child welfare programs, and it's our responsibility to ensure that all children in care receive the highest quality care and the taxpayer dollars do not support abusive practices. The 2022 GAO report on residential facilities highlighted the need for improved information sharing, data collection, and best practices between states and residential treatment facilities. We have heard horrific accounts from survivors about their time in congregate care facilities across the country. At the same time, we know that there are many facilities in many of our districts that do crucial work that provide necessary services. I hope that we can work together to both root out abuse and better enhance youth facilities that do good work. However, it's clear better federal guidance and information sharing is needed to root out abuse and keep America's youth safe. Congress has the power to act, and we must exercise our authority to ensure better oversight and accountability of residential youth programs receiving federal funding. Your advocacy has brought these issues to the forefront, and that's why I've introduced a bipartisan bill with Mr. Panetta of California. Our bill, H.R. 8817, aims to increase transparency for residential treatment facilities by developing guidance on best practices for federal agencies and states. The guidance will focus on collecting data and sharing information related to youth well-being in residential treatment facilities, improving data on maltreatment, and enhancing oversight of youth residential programs that receive federal funding. My first question, Ms. Hilton, is do you think it's important that federal agencies work with each other to address these issues?
Thank you. It's so great to see you again, and thank you for your dedication on this issue. By introducing that bill, all the survivors and I are so grateful to you for taking action on this issue. And I believe that interagency collaboration is very important. These facilities treat foster youth, kids in the juvenile justice system, youth with disabilities, and youth with mental health issues. I think all the agencies must work together to address the abuse and neglect that is happening, and we can't fix the issue if we don't look at it as a whole.
I know you've worked with state legislatures to pass legislation for enhanced oversight of youth residential facilities. Can you share any examples of states that have implemented particularly effective reforms?
I know with Utah that we've made a lot of progress with children being able to speak to their families without someone sitting right next to them, also with medical restraints. That's another issue that we have been resolved almost. And yeah, I think it's just important that we continue using our voices so that we can pass this bill.
Ms. Peterson, would you like to add to that? Other states where you've seen reforms that have made effective changes?
I'm not familiar with any necessary policies, but I do believe that it is crucial that children are able to talk to parents, able to talk to caseworkers about the situation in their homes, what their foster parents are doing, what's happening in the residential facility that they're living in, confidentiality and alone, so that they can tell them if anything is happening that's dangerous.
In the time I have remaining, Mr. Geen, is there anything you'd like to add?
So when you talk about accountability, I'd like to point out the data that we tend to lack on the children who experience group settings. One is, who are these children? What are the conditions that led them to these facilities in the first place? We have this assumption that these children have severe mental health needs, and yet research shows that a large percent of them have no diagnosis whatsoever. We tend to think of kids going into group settings after bouncing around from foster home to foster home. Most children who spend time in a group setting do so their first night in foster care. They were never given the chance to succeed in a family. We know that high-quality residential care can usually be delivered within 90 days. Within 90 days is generally the intervention that needs to take place, and yet the average length of stay in many places is 9 months or more. So we need to understand what's actually happening in addition to the horrific abuse that you've heard about from things. So it's all of that.
Thank you for all the witnesses that are here today. I yield back.